So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Insight Meditation Center. It used to be that was identified with this building that I'm sitting in, but now more and more over this course of this pandemic and doing these YouTube sittings, I think of IMC as something much broader and wider, maybe even international, and maybe we should call IMC International Meditation Center. So thank you for being here and for expanding the meaning and of what our Sangha is and being part of this. One of the really valuable aspects of discoveries of this practice is a way of being, the quality of mind, a capacity of the mind to be desirelessness, to be desireless, to be without a desire. And it's probably a pretty foreign idea to the way most minds work, because most minds are kind of going from one desire to another. And but to be without desire is to be without any compulsion, any attachment, any kind of need for something to happen. And I know that this goes against what's necessary for much of ordinary life. So not to think of it as this is how we're supposed to be, the ideal way of being, but rather it's kind of like if you are been working in the garden and you're dirty and grimy, then it's good to be dirtless for a while, to take off the dirt, and then we're fresh, and then we can go back out into the world. So to spend a few moments without desire as a way of kind of refreshing, a way of cleansing, a way of opening to something different, as a way of tapping into another way of being in the world, where there is a response, where there is a way, there's wisdom and intelligence and that can operate, but it seems to come from a very different place than where kind of ordinary desires come from. And it's a place where we don't identify with our desires, we don't make a self out of desires, or we don't tie the desires to self-fulfillment, self-enhancement, self-protection, all kinds of things. So what would that look like for you to sit and meditate without a desire? And maybe it sounds like a very foreign idea, but maybe just assume that something in you knows what that is. And that it's something, maybe also assume that it's something precious, something valuable, something that is maybe, once we tap into it, deeply inspiring. So to assume a meditation posture. And maybe you can adjust your posture a little bit, maybe sway back and forth, sideways a bit, maybe move your shoulders in a circle or something, and kind of loosen up a little bit in your body. And then taking a posture that supports being alert. And then hopefully the same posture is one that supports relaxation. And to gently close your eyes. And to take a few long, slow, easygoing breaths, as if you have all the time in the world to exhale. And allow the exhale to extend itself as long as it's comfortable. Sometimes by extending the exhale, it's possible to soften and relax parts of the body that otherwise wouldn't be felt or known. And to let your breathing now return to normal. And as you continue now with a normal breath, in a comfortable way, see if with the exhale, you can let the exhale continue. Be a little bit longer exhale at the end, mostly by releasing and allowing. A fuller exhale without any special effort except letting go or allowing. And at the end of that exhale, perhaps make a very short pause. Not so much maybe making the pause, but rather allowing a pause, or allowing yourself to wait a moment to feel the urge to breathe in. Very simple urge. And then allow for that inhale. Perhaps receive the inhale. And as you inhale, see if you can attune yourself to the fullness of that experience of breathing in without strain, but an attunement that's more an allowing the experience of inhale to be experienced. And at the end of the inhale, see if you can have an allowing, releasing of the exhale, allowing of exhale. And taking a few moments to more fully feel what it's like to allow and receive, to allow the exhale, to receive the inhale, without any other desire, almost as if it's a release of all desires. And in the release of desires, there's an openness and awareness to the experience of breathing in and breathing out. Where desirelessness is closely related to allowing and receiving. And if you notice there are desires or thoughts, desirelessness is more found in letting go of those, or letting them be. Desirelessness is in not picking anything up or getting involved. The kind of letting go that is not even letting go, just letting be, closely related to receiving, allowing, whatever happens in experience. And becoming attuned to that part of your experience that is free of desires, even if there are desires present as well. Don't prioritize the desires. Don't live in desire. See if you can live in a place that is content, open, receptive. Being with what is, not what we want. For a few minutes, experiment to the best of your ability with being free of desire, being content to do so even if you're at the edges of it, being able to, being content even if it's just an intuition or feeling for what it's like to be that way. Noticing what comes alive in you when there's no desire that is obscured by the presence of desires. Desires often come with a lot of baggage associated with it. Beliefs we have, aversions we have, ideas about who we are and what we need, and all this baggage can obscure something deeper. To allow ourselves the chance to be free of desire can allow for the well springs of a warm, caring heart, can allow for compassion and love, can allow for a simple warmth and goodwill for others. A warmth and goodwill which has no resemblance to ordinary desires, because it's not tied to me, myself, and mine. It's deeper, more intimate within than thoughts, ideas, and feelings of self. And perhaps in these last minutes of the sitting, maybe you can intuit or imagine or feel a place within which is not governed by desire, but which is a source for warmth and care and love, where in a sense nothing needs to happen, but where we can allow for that warmth and love and care, the tenderness. Without complicating it with shoulds and shouldn'ts, anxieties about caring for ourselves. In the last minutes of this sitting, perhaps to, if you can, sit quietly with a sense of warm-heartedness, tenderness, care for the world. That maybe in a certain way is free of desire to do anything, has also a momentum, a motivation, a wish that all beings be well, that others be happy, have the opportunity to feel safe, have the opportunity to be at peace, and to be free. And then as we get ready to end this sitting, now maybe is a time for desire. And maybe your desire can be to contribute to that possibility. May you live your life to make this a better world for others, for everyone, you and others. May you contribute to the happiness and welfare of all beings. So welcome now to the fourth talk on greed. And Today's talk is going to be about composting greed, or letting it become transformed. And it's not an original idea with me. Sometimes in Buddhism, where this kind of idea exists, it's sometimes seen as kind of more an advanced practice. And because it's best not to do it in a way that we get all too easily the old habits of mind and habits of self are kind of come along and gets entangled in this practice of composting greed. And that's why having a strong foundation in mindfulness practice, the basic practice, is really important. Something I tried to do a little bit yesterday. And to learn to have this, really strong, clear recognition of desire, of greed, of wanting, and of anything, where there's a little bit of freedom, a little bit of distancing or opening or in relationship to what's going on. And this clear recognition, when it's practiced with vipassana, often involves a kind of clearer and clearer recognition of the details of experience, rather than lumping it all together in one big, maybe amorphous idea of what something is. We start seeing the components of it, the components of the body, the bodily expressions, the emotional aspects of it, the motivational aspects of it, the cognitive aspects of it. As each of them becomes more in highlight and seen as distinct, then the kind of amorphous whole doesn't grab us as much, and we don't get so reactive to it or caught in it or greedy about it. And we start seeing the underlying kind of conditionality of it, the underlying changing nature of it in a very powerful way. And so this is a core aspect of vipassana practice, something tremendously valuable, something to be, to love and to care for, and it's so liberating. And sometimes it's a little bit like you want to take a really good look and really recognize what a bicycle is. And so you look at the bicycle and you get your tools out and you begin taking apart all the pieces of the bicycle and separating those and screwing everything and laying everything out on the ground. And so you can really see what a bicycle is, all the parts of it. And that's fascinating to see that, maybe. And but when you do so, that thing that was the bicycle no longer rolls. It no longer works as a bicycle. In order to really kind of let a bicycle be a bicycle, you don't take it apart. You have to let all the pieces be together and work kind of in harmony, and then allow it to roll. So sometimes that's true also with our inner life and with desires and greed. Sometimes if we kind of do this deeper kind of look of vipassana, or if we get deeply concentrated and bypass kind of the desires, the greed itself, then the rolling of the bicycle of desire, of greed, has been interrupted. And sometimes that's like a tremendous safety to do that. To be caught and involved in greed can cause so much damage to ourselves and to others, and it's very stressful, it's very alienating, it's disconnecting, it's sometimes lends itself to an assertiveness and aggressiveness that objectifies others or doesn't really see others as human and bulldozes over people because our greed or desire is more important than even other people's welfare. It's horrible what can happen in this world, in the assault of people's desires and greed. But if we learn how to have this clear recognition, learn how not to be involved in the greed, not to be entangled with it, then we have the opportunity to compost it. And what I mean by that is to not be caught in it, but also not interrupt it, not interfere with it, not to go deeply analytical, not get concentrated so that it kind of changes the inner kind of landscape so dramatically it's not there, but rather to let the greed be, allow it to be there. And one way to allow it to be there that's safe, that kind of protects us from getting caught up in its thoughts, ideas, its goals, is to feel it in the body. And that's why I call it composting it in the body. And doing it. So I said before, this is an advanced practice, but sometimes it's not necessarily for only a kind of more well-matured practitioners. It's also for people who have no other option because the greed is so strong that it's going to take over if we don't do something. And maybe there's no access to this deeper mindfulness that I talked about yesterday. And so instead, just coming back to the body, feeling it in the body, grounding in the body over and over again, and letting it kind of move through in an embodied way. Feel the momentum, feel the move, feel the urges. And by grounding in the body, it does a number of things. One thing is that it takes us away from the thoughts, the ideas, the hopes that exist in the mind that are often kind of what's compelling it. They're feeding it. It also takes it a little bit away from the emotions just in and of itself. It allows whatever emotions are connected to the greed to be grounded in the physical body here. It's kind of like has a root. It's in the present moment. The body is always present. Also, when we start feeling it in the body, feeling the sensations, the impulses of greed in the body is kind of like a large, but when we meditate with our body, the body is in some ways bigger than what we think of as our body. It's kind of like there's lots of space in the body. And so to allow the momentum of greed and desire to course through the body, kind of keep opening space to it, allowing it to be there. And this, what I'm talking about now, is best done in meditation, where you're committed to not moving, not acting on it. You just sit there and just let the greed course through your body, the feelings, sensations of it. And when you get out of the way of it this way, but also don't enact it, don't get involved in it, then there's a composting, there's a transforming, there's a change that goes on that is kind of akin to, I think of it as akin to the way the body can be self-healing at times. That, sometimes when we get sick, sometimes if we injure ourselves, if we allow for the right conditions, keep a wound clean, or if we break our arm, have a cast on and have the bones lined up again, then the body has an amazing way to find its way to health and to healing. And so same thing with emotions and desires and like greed. Greed is a little bit like being sick, an illness. And the system knows how to move to health if we create the right conditions for it. Now, and one of the right conditions is to not enact it, not be compelled by it to do anything, but also not to push it away or to not allow it to move through and course through our body. And then as we do so, it's kind of like we get out of the way and allow it to be here. Then something begins to shift and change. Sometimes it just simply settles. Sometimes it changes into something a little bit different. And there's like layers in our inner life. Then we go through those layers. So for example, greed itself, in some circumstances, might be a symptom of something deeper that's going on inside of us. And so as we do this composting, this transforming, allowing it to be there, that deeper thing begins to show itself. That deeper thing begins to kind of bubble up as well. And that's much more important. So for example, some greed, for example, might be a symptom of fear. That we're really afraid of something and we really want something because we think that's going to make us safe. Or we might have really strong lust, even sexual lust, but if we look underneath it, there's a deep loneliness. And that deep loneliness is looking desperately for something that we think is going to fill it, take care of it, that's really impactful, really powerful, and kind of a real assurance that we're not alone, that someone connects to us. And so sexual engagement sometimes is the ticket, we think. And to feel that deep, the fear that might be there, or the loneliness that might be underneath greed, or the anger that might be underneath it. There's sometimes a strong anger that propels us to want to do something, maybe something harmful even. And or there might, as we kind of we go through these layers. And so, for example, if there's fear, there might be underneath that fear a sense of vulnerability or tenderness. There might be a sense of hurt that we have, or a deeper kind of quieter fear that doesn't really have an object of the fear, but just kind of exists there more existentially. And as we go through and transform and allow these and allow these and allow these, then the transformation, the composting begins happening, the movement towards health. But it often requires going through these layers and discovering here. And this idea that greed is just a surface manifestation of something, a symptom in a sense. And so don't act on the symptom. Don't kill the symptom. It's just a messenger. But to kind of sit quietly, allow it, so we can hear more deeply, see more deeply what's really going on inside of us. So we can connect more deeply, or allow the more deeper movements and revelations of what's really happening here show itself. And so there's a composting going on, the transformation going on. And occasionally that transformation, like with something like desire and greed, is that greed is a kind of wanting something, just like compassion is. In Buddhism, faith is a kind of desire for freedom. And so as we get deeper and deeper down, we start finding that part of the transformation might be the discovery of a appropriate desire, beautiful, healthy desires that are really there at the base, but we've never figured out how to express it or live it or trust it. So quickly the self and kind of the ego comes into play, the selfishness comes into play, or the care of protecting ourselves, or the anxiety around things, or all the cultural beliefs we have around self and others come into play that obscures the deep, beautiful kind of desires that compassion is, or the movement towards liberation might be. So to compost, and how I know to compost when things are strong, is just keep returning to the body, and when like greed is strong, then it might keep coming back. It might have thoughts as part of it. We just allow all of it just to be there, but it's kind of like, come back, be here with it, and then be here with it. And just keep coming back, keep coming back. It's kind of like you're turning over the compost pile so that it can keep burning properly, decomposing. You're turning yourself over, just coming back, feeling the body, feeling the body, feeling the body. And if you keep doing that, that is a protection against getting involved in the thoughts, the ideas, getting involved in the desires. Just don't get involved. Stay here. Stay here. And if what I said today doesn't make sense to you, or is confusing, then maybe just ignore what I said. Maybe this is a kind of, I said, it's a little bit of an advanced practice, and maybe it'll become clearer as you trust the basic practice of mindfulness. It's so powerful, so effective, so useful and meaningful. Trust it. And when the time comes, you might get some sense of what I'm talking about when I talk about composting. So, thank you very much.